Welcome to a new video from Shop, and today I'm going to show you two tweezer stations from Atten. Solder tweezers are desoldering tools with two heated tips in the shape of a normal tweezer, which are very useful tools in helping you to desolder and resolder SD components on PCBs fast and easily. For instance, there are tweezer stations from the brands Hakko, JBC and Weller. These tweezer stations perform well, but they're pretty expensive. But now, Atten also sells tweezer stations. One of these stations is the GT-6150C, which has one channel, and the other station is the GT-6200, which has two channels, so you can combine your tweezer with a different tool, like a soldering iron. Both tweezer stations are almost identical in the remaining specifications. The only difference is that the maximum power of the GT-6150C is 150 watts and the maximum power of the GT-6200 is 200 watts, but this is split over the two channels. The tweezers of both stations use a pair of active tip T100 cartridges, and the additional soldering iron for the GT-6200 uses T130 active soldering tips. But what are the advantages of buying one of these Atten tweezer stations compared to tweezer stations of other brands? Basically, there are three main reasons. First of all, active tips are used in the solder tweezers, so the time it takes to heat the tweezer tips is much shorter, and temperature control of an active tip is much better compared to a passive tip. Hakko, for instance, does not sell any tweezers with active tips. Secondly, when you buy an Atten tweezer station, there are already cartridges included with the station, so you do not need to buy any cartridges extra on top of the price of the tweezer station itself. Furthermore, if you do want to buy different cartridges, there's no need to worry because the T100 cartridges are also much cheaper than, for instance, cartridges from Hakko, JBC and Weller. Lastly, these Atten stations are much cheaper than tweezer stations from other brands. The price difference becomes even greater, especially when you think about the fact that the tweezer and the cartridges are included with the station, compared to other brands. The minimum price of a tweezer station from Hakko, JBC or Weller, including tweezers and cartridges, is around 900 to 1000 euros excluding VAT, while the tweezer stations from Atten are only 300 to 400 euros excluding VAT. But now let's see how these Atten tweezer stations work and what the quality is like. First of all, the tweezers feel comfortably in my hand and it does not feel like it's getting dragged away by the cable. Furthermore, the cartridges are basically one big replacement part, so they can easily be replaced just by pulling it out and push new cartridges back in. This way you can replace your cartridges really fast while they're still hot and the tips are already perfectly aligned, so you do not need to do any twisting or turning. There are several cartridges available with different tip shapes and sizes if you want to replace the included cartridges. Solder tweezers basically work the same as normal tweezers. When you pinch the SMD component on a PCB, you can melt the solder on the solder joints easily on both sides of the SMD component at the same time and pick up the component with the tweezers. As you can see, the alignment is great when you pick up a small component. The active tips help a lot with desoldering, especially when you have to desolder components from PCBs with big ground planes. When you turn on the station, various things show up on the display. First of all, the station can detect what soldering iron or tweezer you have connected to the station. You can change the temperature per channel by using the arrows below the display or by choosing one of the three preset shortcut temperatures. Furthermore, you can see here the actual temperature of the cartridge, the set temperature of the cartridge, and there's a power bar which shows how much power of the station is being used at the moment. You can also connect the station to a PC and use the PC software dedicated for the Atten GT soldering stations. With the software tool, you can set parameters to the station and real-time data will be shown in a graph in the tool and can be saved on your computer. So to summarize, I've talked about the specifications and advantages of two tweezer stations from Atten. Furthermore, I've shown you how you can change the cartridges of the tweezer and how well they align to SMD components. Lastly, I've shown you the display of the tweezer station and the PC software dedicated for the station. In conclusion, these Atten tweezer stations use active tips, cartridges are included with the station, and these stations are much cheaper compared to tweezer stations of Hakko, JBC and Weller. Therefore, I recommend buying one of these Atten tweezer stations over buying a Hakko, JBC or Weller tweezer station. Furthermore, since the 2-channel tweezer station comes with an additional 130 watts active tip soldering iron, and it is not much more expensive than the 1-channel tweezer station, it is definitely worth to consider buying a GT-6200 over a GT-6150C if you're going to buy a tweezer station anyway. But now I want to thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.